Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Chelsea 1, Burnley 1. Chelsea drop points before the November international break. Still going to go top into the international break of the Premier League table, but Chelsea kind of threw it away, didn't they? I'm quite baffled Chelsea didn't manage to win that game based on how it went. I know that it'd be very easy right now to get really negative and reactive and kind of, get really frustrated with the team, obviously, because it feels like a loss, doesn't it? Especially when you've been that dominant against an opposition like Burnley, who haven't been great so far this season. You expect Chelsea, especially when they go 1-0 up under Thomas Tuchel, to secure that victory, to at least keep the clean sheet, 1-0 at worst. But Chelsea could have made it 2 or 3-0. I feel 9 times out of 10 Chelsea win that game comfortably, to be honest. We created enough opportunities, good quality opportunities in the game to win it. So I don't feel I can have a go at the performance for a lack of creativity or invention or being able to open up that Burnley defence, which is something we've consistently sort of struggled with, I guess, at times under Tuchel, where we're not creating high quality opportunities. I don't feel that was the problem today. I think we did. The stats showed we had a lot of shots on goal, some of those from really good positions. The finishing was just woeful at times. It really was from the start, and I don't really want to pin it on one player. It felt like there was a variety of players who missed good quality opportunities that could have made this game safe, could have put it out of sight very early on in the game. At least the first 20 minutes, Chelsea really starting it well, creating good opportunities from the right, especially from Reece James, who we have to praise today because he was wonderful once again. But Burnley create one opportunity and they walk away from Stamford Bridge with a point. It's lucky, sure, and there are frustrations, but Chelsea have got away from some games recently, especially I think about the Brentford game, earlier games in the season where maybe Chelsea could have been done. So I guess you could say they evened themselves out, but I felt that there were positive performances within there. I feel the overarching thing that maybe just is a little bit too simple, but it's kind of something I feel you saw today why we spent so much money on Lukaku. I kind of felt like the reason we bought Lukaku was for games like this, especially in that last 10 minutes. But unfortunately, as we know, he isn't fit for this game. And he's going to return probably after the international break for a run of games that are bigger against tougher opposition. But you saw it why Chelsea went out and spent so much on a finisher, because there still is that underlying problem despite some of our good performances and good finishes recently against obviously Norwich and Newcastle, where there is a feeling that our attack was clicking. But you saw that today once again, Chelsea's frailties to really put teams away. It felt kind of 1920. Someone put, I think Expected Chelsea said it, under Frank, where we just not having that clinical edge that Chelsea are going to need if we want to win the Premier League title. But I don't think it's a disastrous place. So just looking at a stat from Sam Ingersoll, my colleague at Football London, 70% possession, which is a lot for Chelsea, 25 shots on goal, only 4 on target and 1 goal. Nick Pope made some good saves. He made a good save early on from Callum Hudson-Odoi. There are a few others as well. Some deflected crosses very early on he dealt with well. And I feel probably Pope can feel hard done by that he wasn't selected for the England squad. I felt he had a good game for Burnley, but some of those finishes, the main one is Ross Barkley before he was taken off, and I felt that Ross had quite a bright game for Chelsea today. I think his movement in that kind of number 10 position rather than out wide really opened up space for Chelsea, and I think we lacked something when he was taken off the pitch. But it was interesting to me looking at that starting 11. I wanted Ruben to start. I can't fully say Ruben not starting is the reason Chelsea didn't win this game, because I think we can overthink this game and kind of look at this guy should have been starting, that guy should have been starting, what if this thing happened. I generally think, as complex at times football can be, it's just a case that Chelsea had good opportunities, did not take those opportunities, and Burnley created one good opportunity and took it, and maybe Chelsea were a little bit complacent in that final 20 minutes, which defensively we just have not been really under Thomas Tuchel. But I felt that the attack mainly worked in terms of creatively opening up space. I feel Burnley as an opponent are quite good for Chelsea, especially in the current system, for our width of our wing backs with Chilwell and James. The amount of times Chelsea were very freely able to get James into good position positions. I mean, the average positions, which I'll put up on screen now at half time, it sort of looked like actually Callum Hudson-Odoi was playing as a second striker alongside Kai Havertz, Ross Barkley playing in a number 10 role rather than being sort of a conventional front three. And of course, you have Chilwell and Reece, as you do so regularly, up high with the attack there. And you know, I think it was working. Chelsea, once again, I think we're moving the ball sharply. I don't think there was a sense of a passive nature to Chelsea today. I never felt that, even after Burnley equalised. You know, Chelsea was still moving the ball swiftly. I just think in that final 10 minutes, Chelsea just weren't able, maybe because of the two changes Tuchel made, you know, taking off Barkley, I think taking off Kante as well, just didn't allow Chelsea to have the personnel who are really influencing things in the game and opening space to create those opportunities. But that isn't to say that those players who were helping Chelsea create good opportunities were taking those chances, because they clearly weren't, because it should have been much more than the one goal. I want to praise Reece James, because once again, wonderful player. So good to see now the quality we've seen creatively is now starting to come to fruition, in the sense that Reece's creativity is being rewarded with actual finishes, despite the frustration over finishing today. Just looking at some stats, Opta Joe here, only Mohamed Salah, Mikel Antonio and Jamie Vardy have been directly involved in more Premier League goals this season than Chelsea's Reece James. 7 in total, 4 goals and 3 assists. Delivery, absolutely. Non-penalty goal contributions per 90 in the Premier League. Reece James is above Mo Salah, Roberto Firmino, Antonio and of course Paul Pogba at the end. I mean, Reece just on that right side, the patterns of play I'm seeing Chelsea, it's just a very regular move that Chelsea do, where shifting it from left to right. Usually Mason's in his position, but I think at times even I saw Jorginho kind of doing this move, or Ross today, where we get the ball in kind of number 10 position and we drill the ball on the overlap to Reece James. A lot of his goals have actually come from this area. It's just a very natural way Chelsea get width, switch play very quickly from left to right using the wing backs. Reece has just been wonderful, and the cross there is just kind of a trademark thing and a trademark guy I want to see. Kai Havertz, brilliant movement as the number 9 to finish that off. But a bit like Callum Hudson-Odoi's cross for Ziyech, it kind of just makes the goal. It makes it very easy for the forward to make their minds up and to finish the chance. And I just cannot wait for Lukaku to be back. Reece and Lukaku have barely played together. I'll put my written report of this game where I talk about the lack of time Reece and Lukaku have been on the pitch together this season. I think post the international break, Reece with his creativity at the moment is going to give Lukaku better opportunities at scoring goals and rediscovering that goal scoring touch is why we bought Lukaku. I think it's going to be a major part of it. So Reece, once again, I thought was brilliant today. And before it was hard done by getting a yellow card in that thing with Cornet later on. I thought Mariner didn't have the best of games as an official, but you know, Reece James once again, you know, proving why he's such a threat and why him and Chilwell continually need to be first choice at wing back, because they just offer so much offensively for Chelsea. They really do. Let's get to Ross Barkley. You know, it's kind of a sign of a nice thing about Thomas Tuchel this season, continually these fringe players, players that none of us expected to be featuring so heavily, getting opportunities. I think it's a consistent sign of probably the positive mood at Cobham, that these players are coming in whenever Tuchel rotates and they're mostly playing well. The miss for Barkley just before he goes off is the big highlight of his game, unfortunately for me. And there were still moments where Barkley is doing individualistic things for me, where he just... it's extreme to say selfish, but I feel there are times where he could play that extra pass, or he just goes for the worldy goal that he doesn't really need to, and it really breaks down the move Chelsea when we were getting into a flow. But mostly I think his movement and his all-round play, his pressing to, his work rate to get back a lot of times and win the ball back, and Chelsea trying to start attacks there a few times. I think Tuchel would have loved that, and it's a bit of a shame that maybe Barkley couldn't have stayed on longer, because maybe he could have influenced things and Chelsea could have gone on to score a second goal that would have killed off the game. But it's really positive for Barkley, and it's really positive for the likes of Ruben, for other fringe players who've come in like Malang Sarr, that Tuchel is so well utilising the strength of this squad, and I think it will serve us well, fitness-wise probably as well, going into the crucial winter period, that he can call on players like Barkley. There's another one there who got his first start. I do wonder what it says about Hakim Ziyech, who scored the winner against Malmo. I fully expected with Mason not fully available for this game or fully fit to start, that Ziyech would play on the right side. But I think the fact that Ross started, and I think generally looked good, I don't think that bodes that well for Hakim Ziyech personally, especially with Pulisic back fit, who came off the bench. With, of course, Timo Werner and Lukaku returning after the international break, you fully expect Mason will be back to his best, or at least back fully available to start for Leicester and Juventus and Man United. I don't think Ziyech in this period, compare him to, say, Callum Hudson-Odoi, who I do think has taken his chance over this brief period whilst there's been injuries. I think it's not the best look for Ziyech. It really is. Let me know your opinions on Ziyech and what you think is going on with him, because I think it's an interesting debate at the moment if he can make it at Chelsea, because now there's another player there he's competing with who got a chance today in Ross Barkley, and I think mainly took the opportunity despite, of course, missing horrendously. I think perspective is needed. We can look at this and go, it could have been 8 wins in a row, I think, in all competitions. First time in 2 years, Chelsea could have made it about 5 Premier League wins in a row. We could have gone into the international break with that 5-point gap to Man City. It's only 3 now, obviously beating Man United earlier today. I expect Liverpool to beat West Ham, but that's a difficult game for them. I think perspective is needed. Given a difficult start to the season, if I would have told you where we were, or where we are now, say in August, that we'd be going into the last international break before Christmas, at least 3 points ahead of Man City, I think most Chelsea fans would have taken that. I certainly would have. There have been games where Chelsea, as I say, haven't performed brilliantly, and we've got out with 3 points. And today we performed pretty well, but we get done in the end, and things go against us, or at least our performance, our lack of finishing costs us in the end. Now, you can go overboard about that. We can say it's a sign of Chelsea's old frailties coming back, but I'm not going to go overboard, because I think generally this team under Thomas Tuchel has proven that they can rise to the occasion. I still have doubts, and my doubts are mainly historical in terms of, as we now get into this winter period of Chelsea maintaining a level of performance. But I think generally over this period there's been enough creative there's been signs of better creativity. I think getting Chilwell and James into the team consistently is helping Chelsea create good opportunities. I genuinely think that when Romelu Lukaku returns, Chelsea can click. I also just think it's on Tuchel when Lukaku returns is putting the right personnel around him. At keeping Callum Hudson-Odoi in the team, he's creating chances for Chelsea. I think he created the most chances of anyone on the pitch today. Reece James, obviously, Ben Chilwell, having players like Mason Mount around him. Kovacic hopefully will be returning soon, because he's had a really good start to the season. Players like that who I think are going to allow space for Lukaku, and also allowing Lukaku to have a freer role. I think that's why Kai's been performing well, having more touches in the game. Just analysing the touches that Kai's having at the moment compared to Lukaku. I think we are so limiting Lukaku's game if we just see him as this really sort of stationary focal point. He is so much more than that. And I really hope Tuchel can see this without Lukaku and can see how the attack's been flowing year against poor opposition, and kind of take that and say, let's give Lukaku a bit more freedom to maybe drift that wide every now and then, to allow someone else to go into the centre, to do what he does for Belgium and did so effectively for Inter Milan last season. Those are my thoughts. I know it's going to be mainly negative. Obviously, it is a 1-1 draw at home to Burnley is not a great result, and it is frustrating going into the international break, which is going to feel a little bit long now. But let me know your opinions on the game. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Follow all my work not only on the Carefree Chelsea YouTube channel, which is just launched. I'll leave a link in the description box below. Please go and subscribe to that. Lots of content coming up there, but also my written work for Football London. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend if you can, and I'll see you again.